Welcome to this episode of the Elite Question Askers. My name is Jason Wells.
I am Mo Williams.
I'm Dietrich Taylor.
What was that laugh?
Just, if you can't laugh, it's not appropriate,
Like a real old man right there that's got to clear his throat just to speak.
Yeah, I felt like that.
So let's get it, man. I'm excited about what we're going to talk about today, but let's do what we do and get into our fist bump moments. Does anybody want to start in our fist? I'm with you, Mo. I feel like we need to get some fist bump music. We got our money moments music coming out. I feel like we need to get some fist bump moment music.
No doubt about that.
I don't know if you could tie a track into that term.
Hey,
you are the king of finding the track with a term.
I was gonna say, don't test me. Don't test me.
I was gonna say, why nut if you butt?
There you go. You
get it. You know what I'm saying? Let's go.
Welcome to Mature Mondays. Here we go. This is what we do. Go ahead, man. You're gonna share since you already talking nonsense.
Me?
Yes, you.
Dang. That's crazy how I get associated with nonsense.
Well, you the one talking about what we nut gonna do and all that,
Yeah. My fist bump moment is probably centered around my parents. My dad will be, I think he'll be 72, 73 March 14th. So they're still together. And they are alive and well and kicking like you wouldn't believe. So that definitely is my fist bump moment, to be able to celebrate them. Being close to them in proximity, they can come to a lot of, if not all of our games. So I see them regularly, and that's one of the perks of working where I work, is being able to have access to them within 30 minutes. So that is definitely my fist bump moment, being able to celebrate them.
Yeah, no doubt. Mo, I'm gonna piggyback right here just because it's amazing, man. We don't talk about this. I had absolutely no clue that you were going to say that, and mine is actually wrapped around with a conversation that I had with my mom as well yesterday. And I think we did talk about this because I remember you telling me that your dad's birthday was in March. My mom's birthday is the 23rd, so literally 9 days after, she will be. I'm 45, so she will be 78.
Man, that's nice.
Yeah. And her and I had an awesome conversation. We don't talk every day. We talk every few days, and typically it's not very long. It's a, hey, how you doing? You good? I love you, that type deal. But yesterday was a nice 45-minute conversation. And, on top of the typical family stuff of talking about my brother and my sister and everybody else and those conversations. But yeah, man, like she I think is really tapping into her, who I am outside of basketball. And we had a really cool conversation about 5 years ago when I first moved to St. Louis. And she told me, she was like, son, we were never raising a basketball kid. We were raising a quality person. And I think as she's getting older and seeing me step into the second act of my purpose, of who I am, I don't know if more proud is the phrase, but I feel like she's stepping into like, oh man, like I did all right, if she's patting herself on the back and giving me acknowledgments of being a quality man. So yeah, that'll be my fist bump moment. Top that, Mo Williams.
Well, we're not competing, but if we are,
I see what you did there. This man learned how to use his emojis and everything.
You might lose, but my fist bump moment.
You heard that.
You don't act like you did.
Yeah, I heard you. We heard you say if we were competing, I might lose. We heard that.
Okay. Let's see my stoic comedy you mentioned earlier, but my fist bump moment is, so we played in our conference tournament last week. We lost. Season's over. But one of the things we did, I kind of shared with you guys through text, but didn't share details. The last team exercise that we did was I had the team cut down nets. And we cranked music, and each guy got up on that ladder and cut a piece of the net. And the purpose of that was I wanted those guys to know before we got on that bus how much I believed in them. And I explained to them that one of our core values is faith, and asking them in the circle, what does faith mean? Like, what does it mean to you? You know, and it's one of those, I mean, it's a straightforward word. There's not a lot of different definitions you're going to get with that, whether it's more religious based or just your personal opinion, but it's pretty straightforward. But, telling those guys that I want you to hold on to those nets. I want you to hold on to that net, and I want you to feel it and really see it, put it somewhere where it matters. But I want you to know when we get on that bus, we're not getting on that bus to lose. And we lost. In the locker room, I told those guys that for those guys that are returning next year, you now have something to hold on to, visually see, to push for. That moment, and it was hilarious, y'all. Like, it went from like, what's this dude doing? Like, why are we doing this? To like, yo, you would have really thought we won the championship in practice. Like, they were running around. They had somebody found a water bottle. They were spraying it on each other. They was running through the halls. Like, you'd have thought we had the best time ever. And we fell short. But in that locker room, I told those guys, for those of you that are returning, you now have something visually that you can see, hold on to. For you guys that this was your last game, that net can now be something that you're aiming for that you haven't gotten. Use that piece of net to now be that one thing that you're chasing in your life now that basketball's not there. And why I texted you guys and said that it was one of the most powerful things I've ever done in my career was because of, I don't think these guys truly understand the magnitude of what they did. But I knew the magnitude of what I was doing. And it was powerful, man. It was cool to see the joy that they had. It was cool to see kind of the driving force of the guys that are returning right now. So that's my fist bump moment, man, was doing something uncommon, moving in faith, and just seeing how these guys responded to it.
Appreciate that, brother. D, anything to add? You good over there?
Good. I'm good over here. Just appreciate listening to your celebratory fist bump moments.
Yeah. Man, you sounded real post-game press conference-ish right there. So, Ignite question. I want us to we have all played at high levels. And when I say high levels, I'm talking about beyond high school. Careers look different, but we all played at the collegiate level, which to me, that's high level. When you were a player, especially a younger player, and D, it's a tad bit different for us just because we're a little bit older than Mo, but like, you're talking before social media. Like, I remember when it was time to go play the boys out of Detroit or the boys out of New York, and it ain't until you walk on the court until you realize, oh, damn, that's who that is. So, and Mo, you kind of, I think the tail part maybe of your youth career may have started to enter into social media, but like when you walked into a gym or you walked onto a court, were you the type of player to compare yourself to everybody else? Meaning, oh, he's number this rank, or I'm number this rank, or he's this tall, he's that tall, whatever? Or was it just more of a compete mindset of, okay, cool, let's get it. I got game, you got game, let's get it. What was more your mentality, specifically at a younger age?
I'll go. Being younger than you guys, social media was not heavy what it is now, but it was touching that very early stages around this time period for me. But yeah, I would say I was, but I wouldn't say I didn't use it from a fearful standpoint. It was more so like, okay, you got all these stars on your name and you rank this, like it kind of made me want to go at you a little bit.
So when you say you're saying you compared a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm going at you because of whatever. Like, how did that look? Was it clear to everybody? Was it something for you? Like, how did that look? How did me going at you? What that look like, bro?
Great question. No, I think for me, it was more just internal. It was never like, all right, I'm gonna break away from whatever the team's doing and prove my point. But I kind of use it as a measurable. Like if you were here and nobody's ever heard of me, then okay, I really want to see where I am. I want to see what you're about. But it was never from a like, oof, like a name that comes to mind. One of my first high school games was a dude that played at Ohio State. His name was Jamar Butler from Lima. And yeah, I mean, he was that guy. And I mean, he gave me the work, but I wanted to see where I was. I wasn't gonna back down or anything like that. So yeah, I would say I used it more comparing from a measurable standpoint. Like if this is where he is, okay, I want to see where I'm at.
I would think I thought at an early age, I didn't know any better, but to have there's some sense of comparison, right? That's kind of how we developed or made our rep, was comparing to ourselves to another guy and then going out and playing him and doing some version of competing. But, it was always, even where I grew up, we going from where I was to LA, like those were supposed to be the best of the best, and so we had this comparison. Oh, well, he's so-and-so and he's so-and-so. And then when the game started, we started to compete and try to start to do or execute our game plan, so to speak. I didn't know that then, like I know now, but I would say, yeah, we would definitely be sizing guys up to see how we measured up to them and how we would compare to them. But I would say that quickly dissipated in a stance of, now the game's going. Let's see where we are, see where we stand.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, D. So being that you are, technically quote unquote from, I guess I don't know if y'all refer to it that way, but a suburb of LA. So me growing up in Cleveland, and like people don't really get this, I think, and I've had this conversation a couple times. Like LeBron is very clear. I am from Akron. He does not say I'm from Cleveland. And it's easy for us being the big city to cling on to the little city and say, oh, he from Cleveland. But if you're from that smaller suburban place, I'm repping that. Like, I ain't from Cleveland. Like, you don't hear Flint dudes saying I'm from Detroit. I'm from Flint. You know what I'm saying? Was it like that for y'all out there?
No, it was more so kind of like geographically, everybody knew LA. And so you would just say LA. You would miss it. If you're talking to a person that's from LA, then you would be specific. But if you're just saying in general, you mostly said in LA, because if you said Pomona, they would say where, what, and that turned into a whole nother thing and a whole nother conversation that it's easier to just nix that part of it and just say I'm from LA.
Got you. That makes sense. So for me, mine was 100% comparison all the way through. So, both you guys know this, and this is actually plays into the story as I share it sometimes with young people, but I've been playing with Earl Boykin since 7th grade, and you walk in and everybody knows who his little ass is and no one knows who I am. So I kind of just started walking into every gym with, don't nobody know who I am. But by the end of it, especially during the recruiting period and time, and it was like, okay, cool. I know they coming to look at him. I know they coming to look at Harv. I know they coming to look at Spank, but they gonna leave asking who was the skinny kid. And that was kind of my approach behind it. And that went all the way up into the pros. And Mo, what you said about, comparison, but more of a measurable. And even D, what you said, it quickly dissipated on the court. Mine carried over all the way into my professional years. And I remember having teammates and playing against guys who went to high majors. And I remember, I won't say his name, but I remember a specific teammate I had that went to a blue blood and started off the year in the NBA and finished up the year in Jerusalem with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, like, he came over there with that whole, you know, like swag type deal. And look, bro, I know you was throwing lobs to KG earlier in the year, but right now you throwing them bitches to me, right? we all in Jerusalem together. So whatever your NBA thing was, and I, you know, like Maccabi Tel Aviv always had a whip, you know, whether it was Will Solomon, Marcus Fizer, like, you know, obviously Marcus Fizer, they big blue blood schools, big schools. And yeah, it got to that point to where if I saw a high major, I was there. Let's go get it. I'm gonna show you what this little Indiana State boy gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think there's a part of that even still stands true today.
No doubt.
Like, we do that. I found myself doing it last night as I was watching teams play. I found myself comparing myself to the coaches on that I'm watching.
Yeah.
You know, I found myself doing it this morning. There's a guy in my office, his name is Ryan, and he's like a workout king. And I was like, man, we left here at 8:00 last night and you went to work out. He went to run and he went to lift. And then I was like, man, did you run this morning or did you lift? And he was like, no. I was like, who? No, he said, yes. He said, yeah, I did. I was like, woo, man, all I did was walk 2 miles and you doing all of that. And that's when he made the statement.
What was the statement, dog?
He said comparison is the thief of joy, or no.
It's the thief of joy.
Yeah, it's the thief of joy.
Yeah.
And clearly I've heard both of you guys reference that and say that. But when he said that, it just hit different because I heard it different. It meant something different to me. And it meant, like, so much so to where that prompted us having another conversation, and I went and wrote it on my board. So, like, when I sit at my desk, my board is right ahead of me and I can look up there and see that quote. Because when I'm getting into it now, but like, as you do, you compare yourself to other people, you don't know what they went through to get to where they are. You don't know what environment they came from or what circumstances alluded to, them being who they are. And you may not have what they had. They might not have what you have, and so if you sit and compare yourself, to me, if you sit and compare yourself to somebody else, you miss the opportunity to celebrate what you do have. Message. And when he said that to me, it just, like I said, it hit different, man.
So
touch on that real quick.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mo.
It'll be quick. My whole first year as being the head coach, I found that, and it was gold for me. I used it with our team, but every time I said it, it was really for me. Like, again, coaching at a Division III school, my first win was a Division I win. Like, my first head coaching win was beating a Division I team. Like, very limited practice. Like, yeah, that was the first win. So, like, Twitter, everything's blowing up. Like, man, I'm hot, right? And then we win our second game by 30. So our first, like, regular season game, we won by 30. And then ish hit the fan. Right? And it's like, man, I found myself scrolling for validation instead of scrolling, like, for joy. And when I mean scrolling, like scrolling my phone. And I found that, and it just, like, it was gold for me. Like, it's something that I hold on to this day. Like, this time of the year is just so crazy for coaches because, especially right now, it's like, conference coach of the year, conference player of the year, all conference. No one thinks about those coaches that are struggling or don't get anything. And like, yeah, man, I just hold on to that because it makes me just have the right perspective in the sense of, what am I doing this for? What am I doing this for? And I think that roller coaster of comparison, it never ends in a very good ride. It always ends up crashing and you dealing with yourself more than you ever had to in your life. So I just wanted to hit that because it like really set me back to that place of that first year where we were on this high, this personal high for me, and then shoom. And I was like, man, that quote just hit me. So
Now, and it's actually, D, you going into this is the perfect segue because I was going to ask, okay, cool. We talked about it when we were younger and when we were players, but how did that or does that show up now? So, yeah, both of you, perfect segue into it. And I think for myself, I think it's natural. I think it's natural. So, where we show up maybe a little bit differently than somebody else is I think all three of us truly have an understanding of ourselves, if you want to say awareness, personal accountability, and all of that, to have gone through that experience, to be able to define that experience. So even when we realize that we're comparing, maybe it's an acknowledgement of, yo, let me throw comparison is the thief of all joy on my board. Or maybe it's, just having that quote constantly in your mind. But I think we can all tap into a place of self-awareness that allows us to be able to say, okay, cool. I'm not going to compare from a envious or jealousy standpoint, but I'm going to compare. And actually, it's funny, once again, talking about somebody that we both all know, which is Kimon. He and I had a conversation in between yours and I's conversation, Mo being first and D being second. And what I told him was, yo, man, I'm looking at people, and when I see myself in comparison, air quotes, to other people, I'm looking at it as inspiration, not imitation. I'm looking at it like when I look at somebody that's in my space that's doing, what I may be wanting to do or in a place or getting paid what I want to get paid, I'm looking at it like inspiration, like, okay, cool. He's already blazed that trail to where I go in and I say, okay, cool. I know they're paying that amount of money for what we do. Let's go get it. Not an imitation of how I need to show up and be him so I can get paid what he gets paid. So yeah, I think it's a mind shift thing for me to where, I look at these dudes, but it's how can we go get it?
Yeah, that's a unique way of looking at it. I think the majority of us, and I say us because I'm including myself, we look at it from a different perspective of, we're more comparing ourselves to not inspirational, like, well, why does he have this and why is he that, and and that's, again, to me, the quote, just being able to see it, it just basically, it brings you back. It brings me back into a place to where, like Mo said, what am I doing this for? What am I trying to accomplish? What do I have an opportunity to gain from, or what do I have a chance to gain from this? And so it just redirects your energy and it redirects your focus. For me.
Yeah. Mo, you mentioned coming up short in the conference tournament, season's over. You also mentioned something to both of us in our one-on-one conversations about some version of, and I'll throw it out there and you can elaborate or correct me or whatever it is, but some version of I'm at peace. Season's over and I'm at peace with how it ended, what we did, all of that type stuff. Just can you elaborate more into specifically that, how you got to that point? And I know for me, when you talked to me, I don't know if you did this with D as well. I think you did, but you also talked about the other emotions that you felt. Yeah, I'm angry. Yeah, I'm upset. Yeah, I'm disappointed. I'm this. Yet I'm also at peace. Like, bro, what that mean? Because I feel like coaches need to hear how you got to that point.
Yeah, I think was very angry how it ended, to be honest with you. And that's the first thing I told you. Not because of losing the game, but how we lost the game. And I won't get into great detail of that. But I think something that I've tried to grow in or have grown in is feeling emotions and allowing myself to feel emotions opposed to moving on, pushing forward, tough it out, push through, feel those emotions. And I was angry. I was angry in the sense of the amount of preparation and time, or the phrase we use is training, that goes into the moments that we were put into in that basketball game and we did not show up in. That's what made me angry. But I think I'm not happy with the result. I'm not. But I'm at peace because of knowing, as I review, going back to that Jimmy Dykes book, reviewing your film, as I review my film, I know that I gave everything I could to help our basketball team. And I think during this time of year, I'm always more like, man, I could have did this better. I could have did that better. Like, yeah, I think that you could always be better. But I think for me, I'm at peace because I know that I did everything I could to help these guys be the best men and players that they could be. And whatever they needed, whatever situation that I was put into. I shared with you guys earlier on this podcast something that we did. That wasn't for me, it was for them. That's kind of where I'm at, man. And I'm proud of myself for that. I'm not satisfied because of that competitor piece. There's always more things you want to do, but I'm at peace in the sense of, as I look back at this year, I knew that I did everything I could to help these guys, man, to put us in the best situation possible. And it takes some time to get to that point, but for me, I would say I got to it pretty quickly. So, yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
D, I don't know if you got anything, but just to interject, we've talked about it offline. I think this may be the first time that we've said it on the podcast, but I share, that in that personal accountability piece, the framing of the question, what more can I do? So a lot of times we ask that question and we do it with our palms up. Like, imagine, for those that are just listening, imagine throwing your palms up like, man, what more can I do? Like basically saying, I've done everything. What more can I do? And what we discuss on the journeys that we go on is asking that same question, but reframing it to, what more can I do? Same words, same question, just changing the context of what more can I do? So not just acting like I exhausted all possibilities. And Mo, when you shared that earlier, literally, and I wrote it down live on our call, but when you are constantly in search of what more can I do during the process, then you don't have to ask, what more could I have done once it's over?
Message.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm at this piece. I'm every day, every practice, every game, I'm coming in with that, what more can I do? Man, let me do this activity where I got these guys visualizing cutting down the net. Let me take it more than just visualizing. We're going to actually cut down the nets. Like, what more can I do? I feel like when you do that day-to-day, practice to practice, game to game, it allows you to be at a place of peace. I feel like oftentimes when we talk about regret, when we talk about, what more could we have done from a throw our hands up, I feel like that's probably, I didn't put that kind of intentionality behind the day-to-day process.
I'll just piggybacking off of what you both have said in terms of where Mo stands and where he sits. I think that's powerful, especially at this time of year. It didn't end the way you wanted it to. It didn't end the way you envisioned it, even with your team, the exercise that you guys did. Then you have to create a situation to make it make sense, so to speak. But I think you are driven probably differently than a lot of us are in terms of, you what's important to you is, hey, I got to, every day I got to give my best because my best is required. Most people, they're driven by something else and they wait for the end result of that. And because they don't get that end result, that desired end result, they lose focus on, hey, I did my best. Things happen. As long as you do your best, it is what it is. It's just like Jayson said. I'll give you this example. I worked out with a kid yesterday, and we worked, like, we got after it for about a good 40 minutes, and then he was tired, and he said to one of the coaches, hey, can we come back and do another workout and do some more cardio? Well, if you got a chance to do, if you're interested in doing more now or then, later, why didn't you do it when we was doing our deal? Why aren't you being the best you right now? Because later might not happen. And I think that drives a lot of people, is they're looking for the next opportunity as opposed to taking advantage of being at peace right now because you gave everything you had. And I think, again, it's just powerful. I don't want to gloss over that, or act like it wasn't said. I think sitting in that, knowing that you gave your best is something of satisfaction.
And I think too, like, at least in my perspective, there's two types of coaches: you're transformational or you're transactional. I think when you're transformational, I wish you guys could have saw, I'm not gonna go into detail on this, but the people that I told, because there are materials that I needed to cut those nets and the approval I needed to get to cut those nets, that looked at me like, well, you gonna do what?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like, yeah, I'm not asking for your approval or your understanding. I'm just asking to make sure when they cut down and I replace them, that why we did it or what happened. And I think it's you don't need other people to agree or to see your vision. You need the people that are a part of your vision to see your vision. And I think that's the most important thing for me, is just being transformational. The transactional piece, I just feel like that's really temporary. And I think the people that are around you see that quickly and aren't driven by that.
Mo, you said something what probably seems like forever ago, but on one of our earlier one-on-one calls, you mentioned the difference between the people in your circle. So, you can go old school and people can say that you're an average of the 5 people that you spend the most time around, or whatever version of that you choose. But you specifically, in talking about the people that's around you, you said you lump them into 2 categories. You got cheerleaders and you got teammates. And I thought that was powerful. Can you touch on that? Because what I heard when you were saying about the vision piece and people not necessarily sharing that vision, that's what made me ask this question, is because I automatically thought, oh, they just cheerleaders. They only want to cheer for me because something's going well. They don't really understand what we're doing to get to this point of success or greatness. So can you just touch on that for us?
Yeah, so I think this is relative to any relationship building, and the analogy I use for this so clear is teammates and cheerleaders. And to me, a teammate understands the rigors of practice. They understand the time that's needed to be great. Not only do they understand it, but they understand the context of the game and the content of the game. A cheerleader only knows when something good happens. They don't even really know the game, really. Only thing they're trained to do is to celebrate when good things happen. The only thing they're trained to do is when during the game, if you are up, to cheer with a certain volume, and when you're down, to cheer a certain way to lift people up. But at the end of the day, what's driving them is what's on the scoreboard. They know nothing about timeouts. They know nothing about what's internally said within the organization. But a teammate knows all those things. Teammate knows every low moment about you. Teammate knows when you do win, how much it means to you because of those moments and all those moments you shared. So that's the analogy that I use. I want teammates, not cheerleaders.
I just want to know, like, you over there with that ultimate big brother smile, man. What you doing?
What is that, man?
It's just like, man, you over there like, boy, I taught that boy everything you know over there. Why?
What is that?
That is. I wanted to say is welcome to my world, ladies and gentlemen. That is Reverend Mo Williams in all of his luster right there.
Yeah, man, that's fresh. That's fresh, and obviously we sit in this space and we share this space, and it's funny, bro. I was watching. I don't know whether they couldn't come up with a guest or whether it was intentional, but I was watching Ryan Clark, Channing Crowder, and Fred Taylor and their Pivot podcast, and it was just the three of them. And they were just talking about the dynamic that they have amongst the three of them, and just how they get along. And you know, whether it's Fred being more reserved and analytical and kind of quote unquote quiet, or Channing just being off the charts, RC obviously being, you know, on ESPN and major networks. But listening to last episode, like we got a special thing going on between the three of us, because we show up in these three different ways, but it's the root of the relationship allows us to be able to show up. And as I listened to last night's, or as we record last night's airing, y'all basically disagreed. And not once was there a raised voice. Not once was there trying to convince you to come to my side. Not once was there, I don't like you. It was just that, man. And I think that's one of those things where when we talk about the strength of a relationship, that's where the beauty comes in. And literally all people are getting right now is what we do throughout the week in a concentrated, intentional form, because literally this is just an extended conversation, or not even extended in some cases. It's just, we just press record on the conversations that we already have.
We just keeping it funky.
Yeah.
Man, I'm so glad you ain't say keeping it a buck. That was gonna change the whole conversation.
He already said it. He already said it, or yeah, I think it was you. He's like, to be honest, what does that mean? You weren't honest? That's just my own hang up, and I was sharing that with Jayson earlier today in terms of like, what do you mean keeping it a buck? Why do you have to say that? Does that give you a ghetto card, or like, does that make you cool when you say that? That makes me think you weren't honest the other 90% of the time that we were talking. But that's just my.
Bro, you sound so old, man.
I don't sound old. I am old.
It's stamping it. Like,
man, I'm old.
You can't mail something off without a stamp.
No, you can't.
So that's what they you know, they trying to stamp it. That's all.
You know, I don't buy into that stamp. Just tell me what you think and think what you tell me. You know what I'm saying?
You want some forever stamps. You don't need, just let as postage goes up, let me get these forever stamps.
No, just tell me. Like, I'm not that smart. We already know that. I already accept that. I'm cool with that.
Right after I just said we ain't arguing, we ain't doing nothing, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna talk about keeping it a buck. I got a question. Still in the same boat as far as I'm concerned with compete and compare, but man, y'all know how much content I consume, whether it's reading or whether it's a video or whatever it is. And as I look at other people, especially in my space, because even as I just said earlier, I study the people that do what I do. And that's literally what I call it. I'm studying them. I'm like, cool. I feel like, and you guys have heard me share this with your teams, I feel like there's three ways to study. I study myself, I study my opponent, and I study somebody that I want to emulate. Those are the three ways that I approach studying. And I'm looking at these people, man, and the more videos I watch and scrolls I do, I keep seeing people telling other people what they should be doing. Man, you want to be successful, you got to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, or you got to go to sleep at 4 o'clock at night, or whatever it is. It's a bunch of have to. Here's what you have to do. Here's what you got to do. And I put this on Twitter a while ago, and I wanted to talk about it on here, but I feel like we're in this place where everybody is telling people what to do. And I think the real gold is not telling people what to do, but asking them what they're willing to do. Because I can tell you what you should do, could do, would do all day long. But if you ain't willing to do that, what kind of conversation we having? So as you hear that, in no matter what reference, what frame you want to go, it could be with yourself, it could be with your teams, it could be in past situations, whatever. Like when you hear that, what y'all hear?
I'm gonna ask you to repeat what you said when you said what you said.
Man, there you go again. If I find out somebody thought the thought, then I'm coming at you.
Yeah, because the reason I want to do that is just I think what you said is so powerful in terms of what are you willing to do? I'm not going to say anything else. I'm going to let you say what you said, and then I'll respond.
Yeah, I think it's rather than telling people what they need to do, I feel like it's more empowering to the other person, to the person that you want to be great or accomplish something. I think it's more important to ask them, what are you willing to do? Because I think it goes back to, I don't do shameless plugs. I just do plugs. But it's a credit to the book. Like, we know, most people know what they should be doing. It comes down to, am I willing to do what that takes? That's the whole simple versus easy thing. It's really simple. Greatness is simple. You listen to anybody, they all tell you the same thing. Whether it's an athlete, an entertainer, a business person, they all tell you what greatness looks like. Now, are you willing to do what it takes to become great? That's a different question.
Yeah, it's a totally different question, because you can consume all this information, but what are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
And the way you said it, just a minute ago, and the way you said it earlier, is it poses, or it gives different people different perspectives. If you're willing to do a certain thing, there's an alignment that comes with those things, like what you say you want. If you work backwards and you say, what am I willing to do to get those things, then you're in alignment. But if you work backwards and you're not necessarily willing, but you consume information, but you're not willing to make changes, even if those changes are uncomfortable, even if those changes are hard, even if those changes cause you to do things that you ordinarily would not do, remember what you said you wanted and stay aligned with trying to achieve said goal. And I think that's really, really important for people to understand. It's not so much what you hear, it's more of what you're willing to do.
Message.
And my hope is that people listening, people watching, they understand. And when they're in that moment, when they have a choice to attach themselves to what they're willing to do, they will be willing to do it.
Mo, you got anything, bro?
I don't. The only thing I will say, it might be a little off topic, but it touched something you said, Jay, is I've learned as a coach, and Jay, you're a coach to me, that consuming too much information can be dangerous.
No doubt.
And what I mean by that is this, like, as you constantly sit in front of influence, like from a basketball standpoint, if you're constant, I just remember working for somebody who, he consumed information. It was incredible. It was incredible how much he read and looked up things. But our guys could tell as soon as he read a new book, because immediately our whole mission changed, or this whole thing changed. And I eventually, as a coach, I'm just speaking about coaching, you have to stand on something. I think at some point it's okay to add some tools or tighten some things, but eventually, this is the toolbox. Can't be consuming a brand new toolbox every season. So I think that applies just a little bit based off of what you said, but that was just more centered on coaching because I know it's that getting to that time of year where, you know, coaches are want to pick people's brains and go to clinics. And, you know, I think it's eventually you got to hold tight to something and stay with it.
Bro, what you just said right there, and I'm gonna work backwards because D, I feel like what you said can touch on some things that we've talked about previously as well, but most specifically, it is also why, and you know this because of our relationship and friendship and all of this, but it's why I'm so intentional about identifying those three ways of how I study. I study myself, I study my opponent, I study somebody I want to emulate. So, and that is like this ongoing interwoven like course of there's certain periods of time and there's no set, whether it's 1 month or 6 weeks or whatever it is, but I go through these phases of, hey, I'm really, really, really about to go in on consuming content of myself, AKA studying myself. It's why I record 100% of our calls because I go back and I watch them and I determine how I can get better. Whether it's something verbal, like, man, you said a lot. Or whether it was the way I asked a question or when I asked a question. Same thing with my opponents, quote unquote, which I don't, in this space that I'm in right now, I don't refer to people as opponents. Like I think we're all collaborating in this space because I feel like no matter how many of us that there still ain't enough. So if I'm looking at people who do what I do, I don't even refer to them as opponents. But again, I'm looking at them as inspiration, not imitation. And then somebody I want to emulate was more from a plan standpoint. But even now, like there are people, and it's funny that the people that I want to emulate aren't in my space necessarily. Like I want to emulate Oprah Winfrey and just be a phenomenal question asker who learns herself by learning other people. I want to emulate a Will Smith who is just so exploration based in himself that he'll go 3,000 feet below sea level to go get into pitch darkness. Like those are the people that I'm emulating. So I think that was a really cool point for you to bring out, Mo, because I do believe that, yeah, man, you can get to a point like you're just consuming too much information, man. Stop reading. And I'm actually at that point right now. Like I don't read a whole lot. I'm reading the Will Smith book, but other information is being through video and all that. I ain't reading a bunch of books. D, I think something that you said about that whole asking them what they're willing to do, that pours into the difference between holding someone accountable and leading them to accountability. Because when you ask them, what are you willing to do okay, cool. You want to win. Cool. What are you willing to do to get there? Are you willing to sit on the bench to win? Are you willing to only play 8 minutes a game to win? Are you willing to only score 14 points instead of 19 points to win? And I think that leads back to leading you to accountability of what you said you want. And I think this will be a great wrap up for this part of it or this episode as we go into money moments. But also too, most people don't know what they want. They either don't know what they want or don't think that they deserve what they want. So that whole what do you want question is probably more tough than we think. Like that ain't as easy as you think. What do you want? Because most people are like, man, and they start giving you this hesitant ass answer of what they want. Or shit, I don't even know what I want. I asked a young lady that the other day. I'm getting into it with my coach and I feel like my playing time got diminished. Okay, cool. What do you want? I don't know. Well, let's start there. Because even if what you want is to play 40 minutes a game, I need you to A, identify that, and then B, let's work backwards to figure out what that looked like to get there. Because if you can't tell me that what you want, or if you're ashamed of what you want, then that's going to make it difficult.
If I can, I want to jump in there really quick and say, people, they say they don't know, but I would actually take the other perspective and say they actually do know. They just don't want to say it out loud because it sounds vain or it sounds some type of way, and it's not necessarily within alignment of where they said that they want to go. Yeah. And my whole point is, say what you mean what you say. I want to win. These are my terms. I want to win. I want to play 40 minutes a game. I want to score 40 points a game. I want to score or have 18 rebounds a game. Like, say that. Own that. But then conversely, I'm going to come back at you and say, are you in shape to play at the level that you want to produce 40 minutes a game, 40 points and 18 rebounds? Hey, you missed that loose ball. Why didn't you dive on the floor? You said you wanted to do that. Well, you know what I'm saying? And so that, again, it leads to a level of accountability. But I think a lot of people, they will act confused, or they will say, oh, I don't know, when really them mother truckers know.
Yeah.
They know. Yeah. And that's my point, is like, hey, man, like I'm 60 years old. I'm about to die. Just tell me the real. Just keep it a buck with your boy.
Man, it is absolutely, we have all talked about this. It is absolutely amazing how quickly this time goes, and I'm committed to not go over an hour. So let's get into our money moments. Mo, when you said it, when you told me before this morning, knowing how the outcome went over the weekend and hearing you say it again this morning about the activity you did with the guys about cutting down the nets, and you added some. I feel like each time I hear it, you add a little something. So now knowing that they're running around and throwing water bottles, I can only imagine what that environment was like. But money moment for me, bro, is kudos to you, because whether it's your own judgment or whether it's other people's judgment, the people that you asked for the materials or got the okay, or even the guys that are coming into this, man, what the hell is coach? What are we doing? Man, kudos to you for being creative enough, imaginative enough to put those young men in a place to where, yo, even though we came up short on what we said we wanted, I'm still, like D just said, I'm still letting you know what it is that I want. I want to cut down nets on Saturday. And I feel like, just like D just said, man, there's a lot of people who they move about their desires with hesitancy, which to me, like, hey, I'm at a point right now, man, where I ain't tipping my toe in the water. If I'm going to do it, I'm a cannonball into that thing. And if I need to figure out how to swim when I'm in there, I'm going to do it. But that was a money moment for me, man. Just the wherewithal for you to be in your place of imagination and creativity, to be able to do something that looks, quote unquote, crazy to most people, but it was totally attached to your why and your desire of why you do what you do, man. So that would be my money moment.
Thanks, brother. I'll go next. I hear you say this a lot, DT, but I think it's something that was recorded tonight. But I always take something from when you go into detail about the winning on their own terms. And we're in that process right now. And even the question I asked you guys earlier, I think it was last week, about buying in and how do you get guys to buy in. And that's a whole nother podcast. But, addressing what do they really want? Like, what do you really want? Like, you say this, but what do you really want? And identifying in some ways that, there are guys or ladies that desire these things more so than winning. And like, how can we as coaches use those while also tying it into the team and what is overall winning for us? Like, I had a conversation with a dude earlier, like, why didn't I get all tournament team? The same reason why I didn't get all coach of the year, because we didn't win. So we both didn't get two things we wanted. So what? What's the root of it? Driving the people around us, because we need them for us to get what we want. So, yeah, man, I always just take something from it, and it's something that's driving me a lot, and I just always enjoy when you touch on that, because I think you do a really incredible job with it with your team, and that's part of the reason of your success this year. So that's my money moment.
Definitely, man. I appreciate that. You know, I think there's something to be said with just that. Like, and I'll use our team as an example. Like when they first got together, they verbally said, we want to be Big West Conference champions for this year. They verbally said that. And I think throughout the course of the year, they've gone to the extent of fighting each other to try to figure out how to be Big West Conference championships or be Big West Conference champions, to an action of realizing, hey, I need that person. I need that person. I need that person. And instead of saying it, it has now moved from rhetoric to action. And I think my money moment is watching that maturation take place. And it hasn't always been positive. It hasn't always been a good thing. There have been multiple times where I'm bald headed, but I want to pull my hair out. You know, I just watching those things. And then, like I said to him today, like what you guys started this thing as saying, you have used your actions to define what your terms are. And you have delivered yourself at the opportunity to compete for a conference championship going into this last weekend. And so my money moment is just applauding that process, because it wasn't pretty. It wasn't hunky-dory all the time, you know, but still staying with it, still staying and understanding I'm committed to doing that. It looks different, but it still is what I want, and it still is what this group wants. And having an opportunity to do that, and to realize that what they said is right before their eyes, and all they have to do is act on it.
Sure. That's major, man. I almost finished the call the same way that I started the call, which was with part of the conversation with my mom. And we were talking about the Wiz. And D, as I'm listening to you talk, I watch the Wiz, not the Wizard. So y'all, for those who know, like what they say, if you know, you know. So, but bro, Dorothy, the Lion, the Tin Man, the Scarecrow, they were on the right path. They were on the yellow brick road together. They had a team, they had a direction, they were on the right path. And even though they were on the right path, there were still obstacles, challenges, things that they had to overcome, adversities. And D, that's what I hear you saying, man. Like, okay, cool. This is what we said we wanted. We got on the right path. And even though we're on the right path, oh man, I got two guys that may not like each other right now. I got this side thing going on. I got this going on. Like, there are these adversities that we're going to have to face, even though we're on the right path. Every part of the journey was not, we're going to ease on down the road. And I think that's so imperative for people to understand that you can be on the right path and there will still be challenges and obstacles. So I appreciate, man, just our conversation with comparison and competing, and your honesty and sharing where you are back then and even where you are now, because I think everybody deals with it. And you guys know that one of the things we talk about a lot is not whether or not it's good or bad. It just is. Let's acknowledge it. And now we are the ones that get to determine good or bad. So we got another episode in the books. I appreciate y'all, man. Every time we show up, I get more and more geeked about what we're doing, and it's going to be on platforms that we're going to do what we want to do. Y'all know my number is 77 million. So we're going to find a way to get to that point. But fan page, Mo, I appreciate you getting on. D, we're going to get you figured out for next episode, how to get you into the live chat, man, and get it on. But go to our fan page, and we are also finding more ways to get this message out. But you can go to YouTube for sure. The link will be on our fan page to actually see us in our candor and banter and what it is and all of the shit that you watching now. I don't know if that's a word, Mo. Don't look at me like that. all of our banter. Yeah, banter. I said candor. Anyway, yeah. I'm gonna shut up. There you go. Oh, there's our thumbs up for the episode. There it is.
You heard yourself.
There it is. Yeah, and I saw 3, 2, 1 last episode too. Yo, we are right at time, man. TLSC, Elite Question Askers, Mature Mondays. Fellas, I love y'all, man.
Love you too.
Well,
Peace.